I think we should retroactively put Valerian above it, Chapter 2.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to a Four Horsemen sponsored episode of the Horror of Babylon, where we discuss Independence Day Resurgence. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Welcome to Earth. This is a close encounter.
Get ready for a fucking close encounter. The one-liners were not as good, but I mean, would you expect them to be?
No.
But
I kind of hoped.
Yeah, but you know, some
people we are close with
and have a close encounter with our patrons.
Yeah.
Thank you to Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, mother of the Harvesters.
Hiya! Happy Easter!
And Logan,
the Full Metal
Patron. He's got one of them suits the aliens wear, them Full Metal suits, except has a. They've been reading a little too much Attack on Titan. You can get them from the back. And thank you to Ben, the Patron of Hope. And thank you to Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain.
Oh, she makes it rain. And thank you to Sirius the Sixth, the Keyblade Patron. And this episode is sponsored by Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming. They subscribe to us at the Losers Club tier, which means they get to pick 2 movies per month for us to review. And the 2 movies they chose this month were Independence Day and Independence Day Resurgence. And you can visit Four Horsemen Comics at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at fourhorsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. And if you make it into the store, say hello to Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas, who I both pictured as the 2 characters in this movie I pictured him as were Floyd, the government guy who throws away his briefcase for a gun, and also the Congolese warlord Mbutu.
I like that tonight we have both compared Rom to a black man.
Yeah, it's the spirit, it's the passion. That's what I see. Okay.
I see him as a Blackula.
I see him as a Congolese warlord. Trigger warning, nostalgic heart culture, which, you know, is a big topic for some people, and some people are very polarized about it, so we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Our history with Independence Day Resurgence. You didn't see it. Why didn't you see it?
I was aware it was coming out, and I was like, why are you doing a sequel now? I think I saw the trailer and thought it didn't look very good. And then, because it was 2016? Mm-hmm. And after you turn 30, I've mentioned this a few times, like, all time starts blurring together. So in my head, this movie came out like 2 years ago.
Nah.
And not almost 10.
Force Awakens will be 10 years old next year.
Yeah, and to me, that also just came out.
Yep.
So...
Crazy.
So after you turn 30, either something's from your childhood, or it just came out.
Yeah.
So...
I saw it on the release day, I think, and I went with a group of people from Four Horsemen after work, and it was a pretty negative crowd, and I don't think I didn't really care very much about it. I think I was pretty disappointed, but I I watched it today, and I had a much better time with it the second time. This is not the sci-fi movie to end all sci-fi movies, but I was entertained. I had a good time. I liked it. But it does have... There are definitely some issues, which we'll get into.
Hooray!
Hooray!
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Background, this movie was released June 24th, 2016, which was 2 years ago. It was directed by Roland Emmerich, who we did a kind of an in-depth analysis of his filmography in our last episode.
I would like to watch more of his movies.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll pick my movie to be Stargate.
Ooh. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to see that. And this movie was initially written, and I'll just go over this now because I read the whole wiki page.
Yeah.
So the initial they started talking about this in like 2001.
Yeah, when it should have been made.
Well, they kept getting distracted with other projects.
Yeah.
But
I guess if you get to make a Godzilla movie.
Yeah. But Dean Devlin, who's Roland Emmerich's writing partner, said that his initial inspiration for this movie was the 9/11 attacks. And just seeing the way that not the attacks themselves, but the way the country rallied for a little bit, for like a week. But that kind of inspired him to write this movie, and there is kind of a correlation there. And he and Roland Emmerich did the first treatment, and then they had James Vanderbilt come in and do a second treatment, and then the final version of the script was based on what they did, but what was actually used for the movie was written by James A. Woods and Nicholas Wright. So there's a lot of hands in the pot, but it was also over a long stretch of time. This movie was in development for like almost 20 years. It largely received negative reviews. It's critical failure, and it's considered not a financial failure but a financial disappointment. It had a budget of $165 million and it grossed $389.7 million, which sounds decent, but keep in mind the first one made like over $800 million on a lower budget.
And that doesn't take into account the marketing budget, does it?
I would assume not. I don't know.
Okay, so that's disappointing.
But
they were probably expecting more like
at least 5 or more.
They're probably hoping for the 800 to the $1 billion range, but I feel like a lot of people are making these like $165 million movies and wanting $1 billion, and I'm like, you shouldn't be expecting $1 billion.
It released the same weekend as Finding Dory, which it's not exactly the same audience, but it kind of is because it's also like a huge nostalgia grab movie.
Yeah,
and was much better.
And I'm not saying because I watched Independence Day as a child. Like, you can take a kid to see an Independence Day movie, but if you're going with your family, like if you're like, oh, we're gonna go do a family movie night, you're gonna choose Finding Dory.
Yeah.
You're not gonna choose Independence Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just a cool thing that I found, it was cross-promoted in Japan with Gundam Unicorn.
What?
So they had posters, and I'll include this in the YouTube version, but you can Google it. So they took like the posters and they added Gundam Unicorn to them for the Japanese press releases, and the TV spots in Japan were actually narrated by the Gundam Unicorn voice actors as their characters in Gundam Unicorn.
That's great.
Yeah, it's actually...
They should do a crossover where Gundam Unicorn fights the aliens.
That would be so cool. This movie actually did really pretty well in Japan. It was the highest releasing weekend that Fox had since Revenge of the Sith. So, but I can see like kind of the Japanese appeal in this movie.
Yeah.
Big ships, monsters. Not really. I mean, it's kind of kaiju-esque with the big queen at the end, but...
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
Not really, kaiju. Okay, so structure and themes. Let's talk about nostalgia culture. So, this whole, like, thing, most people would say probably started in 2015 with Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And regardless of what you think of those movies, or at least The Force Awakens specifically, what J.J. Abrams did with that movie is kind of just retold the original movie as a sequel with new characters. At the time, most people were generally pretty happy with The Force Awakens. And I think that Roland Emmerich, maybe it was something he would admit to or not, maybe it was subconscious, but I feel like he tried to do the same thing, just kind of remake Independence Day as a sequel to itself. Yeah. And it's just not as effective.
And I have opinions on why it's not as effective, but we can get into that as we go.
I mean, I think that as a movie, it's fine and it's entertaining, and I'm good to watch this movie once every 10 years and be entertained, but it just doesn't have the gravity that the first movie has.
Yeah. I think that's part of the problem, is the first movie, I'm not going to say it was unique, but it is a product of its time. Those shots of, like, the White House blowing up and all those things exploding, super iconic. Yeah. And so you want to try to recreate stuff like that. And then they kind of try, but everything that I'm watching in it, it's just a far less effective version of what I've already seen.
What I generally like about this movie is the new stuff. Like, I actually like the new characters. I liked the world building. I like finding out what happened between the two movies. This movie made me want to read those books.
You know how many people canonically died in the first movie?
I forget.
3 billion people.
Oh my god. Oh my god, that's a lot of people. When I got irritated was scenes where they're obviously just trying to make a callback to the original, like when when Bill Pullman goes to interrogate the alien and the glass gets fogged up and he gets the tentacle wrapped around his neck,
they did the thing again.
Yeah, and it's just like, I'm not saying you can't do this scene, but I wouldn't have tried to play it exactly like it was in the first movie, because it's not going to go over as well. Just take it in a different direction.
One of my issues, the movie is very nostalgia driven, and so this is going to sound really stupid, but one of the appeals to me in the first movie was you had Earth technology fighting these super advanced alien technologies. And then when you incorporate, like, the alien technology into the human technology, it just seems like generic sci-fi action sequences, as opposed to Independence Day, which was jet fighters versus the generic, maybe not generic, but the alien spaceships. Yeah. And so when I'm saying I'm like, well, it's more like I'm watching bad Star Wars as opposed to watching Independence Day. But at the same time, I'm like, well, okay, you're bitching about all the nostalgia in the movie, Daniel, but now you're bitching because this part isn't nostalgic enough. Or maybe it's because the aesthetic doesn't feel like Independence Day. I don't know.
I could see, as an aesthetic, I agree, but I don't think within the universe it would make much sense.
Oh, but in the universe, I'm like, how much time passed?
20 years.
20 years? Okay, so that'd probably be enough to, build a civilization. I'm trying to think of, we don't have anything to compare it to, but I'm like, how long does it take to come back from 3 billion dead?
I would think I don't know, obviously, but I would think at least a generation.
Yeah, but then again, now you have all this alien technology that you're backwards engineering.
My guess is maybe they start, I want to read these books now. Yeah. But what if they just started rebuilding major cities, and instead of, people being spread out all over the planet,
they get compact.
Yeah, they get compacted into these major cities, and they do it the right way from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's jump into characters. I've got 3 categories. I've got the old characters, the recast characters, and the new characters. And I've got a long list, but I also deleted a ton of characters, so we're not going to go super in depth on all of these.
This was also another one where I went and I try not to do this because I hate coloring my opinion. But sometimes whenever I'm not being able to articulate what my issue is, I'm like, I need to see if somebody has the vocabulary to talk about what I'm trying to say here. And so I did that, so I have a couple things as we go.
Okay, so let's start with Jeff Goldblum as David Levinson. What did you think?
This was one of the characters where I was sitting there going, why is this guy like irritating me?
I don't know.
And so I watched a couple reviews, and people in them were like, okay, here's his character from Independence Day. And here's how he's acting now. And they were showing examples where his character in Independence Day was a lot more reserved compared to other Jeff Goldblum roles, where in this one he's just playing Jeff Goldblum. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me, because I'm sitting there going, he doesn't feel the same.
It's probably a product of this movie being made in 2016 versus 1996.
And there's just a couple small things like that where I'm going, okay, but who played the president again?
Bill Pullman.
I liked him, but we'll get to him. But I was sitting there going, why doesn't this feel right to me?
Now that you point that out, I agree. But I mean, I liked it. I like the typical Jeff Goldblum character. I'm just a fan.
I think it's because I just watched Independence Day. If I would have watched this like in a vacuum, or like we wouldn't have, if it would have been like a couple months since we've done Independence Day, I probably wouldn't have noticed. But I was really high off of Independence Day, so
it is the best.
Yeah. So
okay, Bill Pullman as President Thomas J. Whitmore.
This one I liked. He felt like the same character to me.
I don't think I liked him the first time I watched it, just because
I didn't like the alien scene.
Yeah, but that's not because of him.
That's not because of him.
I don't think that I liked that they made him crazy, just because I was such a fan of the character in the first movie when I saw this 8 years ago. But now I see the logic in his character and the PTSD of being responsible for the world, and it just like fucking breaking you, on top of having your brain exposed to a life form that you can't comprehend.
He has the brain worms.
He does have the brain worms. So I thought he did a good job. I liked how the character was written. His death scene is not as good as Randy Quaid's in the first movie, but
yeah, but I mean, who's his?
Yeah, it was pretty decent.
Yeah.
I really liked the scene with his daughter, where she's going to do the suicide mission. He's like, no, I'm going to do it. And he walks off, and she turns to the Secret Service dude. It's like, don't let him get on that thing. I'm like, do you think the Secret Service man is going to let this little girl die instead of this old man who can do the same thing?
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on. It's funny. Okay. Judd Hirsch as Julius Levinson, David's father.
He felt the same.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen him in nearly as much.
Did you think he died on that boat?
No.
I
didn't believe that for a second.
But they killed Vivica A. Fox right before that.
Yeah, I didn't care about that.
But she's so... I love Vivica A. Fox. I watched the episode of Raising Hope that she's in last night. She's such a bitch in that show. And then Brent Spiner as Dr. Brackish Oaken, who is not dead, who's in a coma.
That is a character I would not have brought back as much as I liked him in the first movie.
I can see both sides. I really like Brent Spiner, and I would tend to lean more towards more Brent Spiner than less Brent Spiner. But part of that is being a Mr. Data fanboy. So I'm okay with it as is, but I could also see a version of this movie without him. I guess just with Jeff Goldblum kind of filling the scientist-esque role of it, but I'm okay with it either way.
Yeah.
We talked about her in the last episode. She's the She's Katara in
Yeah.
Avatar, and she's April O'Neil in the 2012 Ninja Turtles, and yeah. What did you think of the new, or what did you think of Micah Monroe, the new president's daughter?
She was fine.
Okay.
I just didn't care. I was like, okay, it's the president's daughter.
I like the little backstory that they built between her and the Hemsworth kid, and
I would have liked it if they would have. It would have been all these years later, and the president still hadn't told her that her mom died. Just been like, no, she's just still in the hospital, sweetie.
okay then.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you don't have anything to say on Captain Hiller.
No, not really.
Okay. Are there any characters you do want to talk about?
The not Will Smith.
Who's that?
I think he falls under new, but I don't have any.
Liam Hemsworth?
No, the black guy.
That was the one I just asked you about.
Okay, I don't know these people's names.
So, Will Smith's stepson from the original movie, Captain Hiller.
Okay, Captain Hiller. I couldn't remember. There's like 50 characters in this movie.
Okay. Jesse T. Usher plays Dylan Hiller, originally played by Ross Bagley Jr. in the first movie.
I wanted him to be Will Smith. It was my opinion the whole time.
So there's also two different stories on why Will Smith isn't in this movie. Will Smith says it was because of scheduling conflicts with the Suicide Squad. And Roland Emmerich says is because Will Smith gave Fox a $50 million. He said, I will do it for $50 million, and they said no.
He is a much more high-profile actor than he used to be. He was even high-profile back then.
Yeah.
But, like, he's Oscar-nominated and Oscar-winning now.
Yeah.
But $50 million seems like a tall order for... I think actors are paid too much as is. Well, some actors.
I think A-list actors are paid too much.
Yeah.
Most actors probably...
Yeah, most actors probably not.
Yeah.
I think A-list actors are.
He got $20 million for Suicide Squad.
It's worth 20. Have you seen the South Park episode where like all the rich black people moved to South Park?
Yeah, I think so.
There's a scene where like all of Will Smith's children are talking about like how they convince him to do bad movies, and they go, "It's worth $20 million, Daddy. Please do the movie." We don't care that the script isn't very good.
He got $5 million for the original Independence Day. I
guess with inflation and stuff, I doubt that would be $50 million. That's probably $20 million. It still seems absurd, but
yeah, I mean,
but when you compare it to $50 million,
it's hard for me to comment one way or the other.
But I do think this kid did a good job.
Yeah, I think. Yes.
But when I'm watching him, I'm like, and again, I'm bitching about nostalgia throughout the whole movie, so I feel like a hypocrite. But I'm like, I'd rather it just be Will Smith.
Yeah.
Mostly just because I think it's because, Will Smith died in between movies. And that just feels like such a...
If they ever did a third one and they wanted him in it, they could come up with a reason.
Yeah. It just feels like lame. You know what I mean?
He died in a test flight. Yeah.
He died in a test flight off screen. I'm like, that sucks. I mean, that is a thing that could happen.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm sitting there watching it, going, because you mentally it's because for some reason he's not in the movie, and you can't recast Will Smith.
No.
But the kid himself, I think, did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think overall the cast was generally pretty good.
Even though a lot of his lines were callback lines.
Yeah.
They didn't egregiously piss me off. I thought he had good chemistry with what's his face?
Liam Hemsworth.
Thank you. I'm trying to remember the character's name.
Jake Morrison, pilot of the Earth's Space Defense.
Yeah, I thought they had good chemistry.
Yeah, I agree.
I like to see Chris Hemsworth in other roles. So
Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah.
This is the first time apparently people talk about the Hemsworths, like there's more than one of them. But this is the only movie I can think of that is not Chris, that like apparently he has like brothers and they also do movies.
They're just not as high profile because of those movies.
Yeah. But I thought, okay, so let's talk about Liam Hemsworth as Jake Morrison. I thought he did good.
Yeah, he
did well. Sorry,
he didn't bother me. I liked a lot of the new cast so much that I almost wish that they would have just done a bigger time skip and just like a hard reset, which
it reminds me a lot of the third Jurassic World movie, where I feel like they spend too much time on the old characters when they like, because Ian Malcolm and Dr. Grant and Laura Dern are also in that movie, and I feel like they spend too much time on them when they spent the past two movies building Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, and they should really just, I'm not saying the older people can't be in the movie.
Yeah, but you're sitting there going, well, at this stage, just give us the new characters.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the intent going forward, because they wanted to turn this into a trilogy. Mm-hmm. That's another thing I learned from like watching other things.
It was originally going to be two movies, Independence Day Forever Part 1, Independence Day Forever Part 2, but they couldn't get it greenlit as two movies, so they did it as one movie with the condition that if it did well, they would do a third movie, and it didn't do well enough. It probably did do well enough to make a third movie, but it didn't meet their expectations enough to. So
it didn't make franchise money.
And I saw that this was all before Disney bought Fox, and I saw a thing with Roland Emmerich where he said, well, you know, Disney really likes franchise stuff, so it's possible they may greenlight a third one at some point, but
you never know.
Yeah, you never know. These things, we're really getting Beetlejuice 2 now, so
I will not believe it until I am in theaters and the credits are rolling.
Okay, so I've got all these other characters. Are there any of the like newer like side characters that stuck out to you that you wanted, like the Congolese warlord, or
the Congolese warlord was a big one. I thought he was funny. I thought the idea of attacking these advanced alien suits in the back was goofy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm also like, that's like a whatever nitpick. And this Independence Day is a goofy movie. The original is.
It's very campy.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, Daniel, at this point, you're just being a whiny piss baby because you didn't get Will Smith. And that's when I started enjoying the Congolese warlord, because I'm like, this guy is something that would be in a Roland Emmerich movie in the 90s.
Yeah.
And attacking the aliens with swords just because it's cool. So after I got over myself on that one, I enjoyed him a whole lot.
So he represents a part of the world building that I wish they would have spent more time on. Mm-hmm. / I hope one of the books spends more time on. And I don't think the movie does a good job explaining this, but essentially what happened in the War of 1996, which is the lamest name for a war ever.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't call it the World War. They already did that.
War of the Worlds.
Damn.
So one of those ships from the original movie landed in Africa, and when they took out all the other ships, this one got stranded, and a group of aliens was stranded there in the Congo, and they actually made a village. They made like a city, and they started colonizing that area. And the guy in this movie, his father was in charge of the area at the time, and had like a 10-year-long war against these aliens where they did ground warfare against them.
I almost feel like that would have been the better movie.
Yeah.
You know, because this movie does feel like the same movie again, but like we have to make it bigger.
Yeah.
Which is something I always it can be done to where I enjoy it, but I usually don't. Mm-hmm. But I feel like doing a different type of movie in the same universe, like the alien ship crash landed, and like, okay, well, we know how to blow up their ships, but now they're like guerrilla war fighting us. Mm-hmm. And their suits are really tough, or you gotta find a weak. I feel like that would have been the better movie.
Yeah, I definitely like. they're like going to meet these guys, you see like alien skulls like on what do you call them, pikes,
and that was cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, because we knew what their like flying technology was like their ships with the shields, but what if their ground technology had something else going for them, and now they were having to find a way to deal with that after the ship crashed.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen something like that.
Be cool.
And then you find out, you just cut them in the back.
You just cut them in the back.
Yeah.
That's where they get in the suit, so it splits. I don't know.
Yeah. I remember the toys split in the front because you would squeeze the back and you put the little other alien in it.
Oh. Okay, there's a bunch of other characters.
Do you have any that you would like to talk about? Who played the new president?
Celia Ward plays President Elizabeth Lanford. It's
okay. So, this is going to be controversial. I was sitting there going, were they banking on Hillary Clinton to win? It was the whole vibe I was getting when I was watching that.
No, so actually, I did way too much research on this.
Okay.
Her backstory, which they don't explain, is that her entire family was killed in the First War.
The War of 1996.
The War of 1996. And so she's basically racist against anything from space.
Oh no.
So that's
she's Trump.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why she jumps to attacking that first ship in the earlier part of the movie so fast.
Okay. I was getting Hillary Clinton vibes, like the we need to shoot the aerospace ships if Russia flies over this thing, because that was a big controversy during the 2006 or 16 campaign. Was like she's gonna start a war with Russia with this policy, and then the counter was, well, Trump's just gonna suck Putin's dick, and yeah, either or. But so I guess
both sound bad to me.
I guess she's just both of them.
Yeah, she's both. She's the worst of both worlds.
So,
but
at the same time, I'm like, they killed 3 billion people.
Yeah. So
it wasn't even that long ago if you think about it.
20 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, most of your characters from the original one are still alive.
Yeah.
At the same time, it like unites the human race and builds like this Star Trek-esque like utopia. And there's been no armed conflict in the past 20 years, but also we're like super bloodthirsty for this other race of sentient beings.
Smash.
I'll kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Scary shit. This movie scary?
No.
My heart got beating pretty hard when the first ship comes down and like decimates the East Coast. Like I got into it. But scary, no. But that was more of like a disaster movie feel, kind of like the giant tidal wave scene and The Day After Tomorrow.
It felt more like late Roland Emmerich movie to me,
as
opposed to Independence Day, which is what I wanted it to feel like.
Mm-hmm. But
again, I'm a hypocrite because it's too nostalgia driven. This isn't Independence Day enough.
Yeah, you suck.
Yeah, so.
Effects, I thought the effects were pretty good.
It looks, when you told me the budget, I'm like, yeah, it looks like they spent over $100 million on it, so.
I thought the
aliens looked really good.
Yeah, and the Queen, I thought the Queen looked really good too.
Yeah.
And the ships, I love the ships.
Yeah. How do you feel, I think we'll probably be on different fields on this, but how did you feel about them, like, explaining more lore about the aliens? I was more pro of just don't tell me, just have them come back if you're going to use them again.
If it was going to be one movie, I could see that, but the intent was for it to be a series. So
they were like, they had to get that sequel bait in there.
And, well, the intention for the next movie was for them to go with the sphere into space and take the war to the aliens.
Yeah.
So you kind of needed that lore in place for that premise to be. But yeah, with it only being the one movie, I can see that as a criticism. But like I've said this a couple times, I actually really want to read the books now and get into more of the lore. So
I'm thinking about buying some of the comics too.
Yeah, there are also comics next summer.
We're gonna spend so much money just tracking down Independence Day.
Yeah,
out of print books.
Be great. All right.
I looked up one of the Friday the 13th books the other day because I found out it takes place in between two of the movies. So I was like, oh, I'll get that, and just to see what that's like. And then I looked up the price, and the average selling price is like $200.
Jesus.
For like a mass market paperback book. And I'm like,
That probably sucks.
that probably isn't very good because it's about the FBI trying to track down Jason Voorhees. But it sounded like goofy, and I might have I'd spend $10-$20 on that.
Yeah.
But I saw that, I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Oh my god, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
Kings and Koontz, my king, I think is probably the world building, but on like the Earth side.
I can see that. I liked the Earth side of the world building. That's not my king. My king is the implication of the Congo War.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it.
Yeah. So same.
Yeah.
That's what I really kind of wanted. I wanted to have some more of that. But the amount I got, I enjoyed so much that I was like, oh, that's cool.
But
runner-up is just getting to see more of the aliens in those suits. Because I liked the alien suit in the first movie.
And you got to see more or like ground combat in this one, which was cool.
And as a kid, I wanted more of like just the aliens, but back then that was like the money shot. That was like, you don't put the xenomorph alien front and center so much in the first movie. You wait and you build it up, and then you get the scene with the behind the glass and
I also really liked just the Earth space defense force, like the moon base was really cool. I liked the primary weapon they had.
Surprisingly, my backup is the chemistry between the new actors, because I think they did pretty good.
No, I think like I said, I love Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman, and I want them to be in the movie, but I think to me, you want to do like a torch handoff. You want to do like, okay, this is what we did. We're establishing who the new characters are, and then you kind of let them take the torch.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
They should do a comic of the Congo guy.
Yeah. Maybe they did. I don't know. Koontz. I don't think I have like one big specific thing.
I think my Koontz is going to be that this movie struggled to find a balance between nostalgia bait and finding its own identity.
Yeah.
Because I've been going back and forth on that through this entire episode. So I think that there is a legitimate balance issue in this movie when it comes to appeasing an audience.
For me, it's going to be a couple specific scenes that are just way too obvious drawbacks to the original, being the interrogation scene, Bill Pullman's speech, the dog fight.
The speech was pretty bad.
It's not even the speech itself was bad.
The speech itself isn't bad, but like trying to recreate that scene.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he can't make a speech, but just don't make it so obvious. Do something different.
I feel like,
or have his daughter do a speech.
Because I bitch about, Disney and Marvel doing this all the time too. But I almost feel like they should have taken a note from them and like started to do a speech, and then it gets interrupted. If you weren't going to have himself sacrifice himself, he should have been killed during a speech.
Yeah.
So I probably shouldn't be saying that now.
No, we're going to end up on a list now. Whatever. I'm sure we're already on a list.
The poor fictional president.
Oh, your ear's bleeding, you poor man. And then rankings, I already ranked it. It's pretty much right there in the middle. I have it as my new number 61, below Battle Royale 2, because I couldn't put it above the teacher. Merry Christmas.
They should have him in Independence Day 3.
He leads the Japanese forces.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's my new number 61, so pretty much in the middle.
Aliens. He drives a Gundam.
Gundam Unicorn.
Yeah. Where's Valerian at on my list here?
Number 89.
I like this more than It Chapter 2. I liked it more than Firestarter, Sanctuary Moon. Okay, so we can go up a little bit.
I think we should both retroactively put Valerian above It Chapter 2.
Yeah. I think I'm going to put it right between the stands. I'm going to break up the stands. So it'll be number 83.
Below the stand 94 and above the stand 2020. Further reading, I kind of had Prometheus in my head for a lot of this movie.
For me, I was sitting there going Force Awakens.
Those are the two movies. Like it's kind of like in the middle, like because Force Awakens is like redoing the original movie as a sequel but also like kind of also passing the torch to a new set of characters. And Prometheus is like completely different, but like trying to maintain a similar tone to the original.
Yeah.
So
I think those are two, like, if you enjoy this movie, those are two good recommendations.
Yeah.
I think it also depends on what you like about this movie. If you like the disaster aspects, Roland Emmerich has an entire filmography. If you like the science fiction-y dogfights, you got Star Wars.
People don't talk about this movie in this way very often, but I think one of the best modern examples of a sci-fi dogfight actually comes from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's never brought up with that movie at all, but I think it's really good.
I still haven't seen the third one of those.
And it was pretty good.
I was super excited for it, but that's like how much Love and Thunder hurt me.
It's a million times better than
I assume it is.
Yeah.
But that's like how much I got turned off of Marvel from that movie.
No, it's worth watching.
When I was sitting in the theater and went, I wish I would have gone to see the Minions 2 instead, was my thought.
Despicable Me 4 was also good.
I haven't seen any of the Despicable Me's.
They're fun.
Yeah.
Supervillains, spy stuff. You might like it.
Yeah.
Supervillains. Okay, so upcoming on the Horror of Babylon, this Sunday we're reading Goosebumps Attack the Mutant by R.L. Stein.
Just finished.
And then on the next Sunday, August 4th, we are back on the quest for the Dark Tower with Roland, Susanna, Jake, Eddie, and Oi.
Boy.
Reading Wolves of the Kala by Stephen King, which I just started about 4 or 5 days ago. And Yep.
Are you okay? That was a face.
Yeah, I'm liking it a lot, but I had kind of a visceral reaction when you find out what's going on with Susanna, and I'm like, again? I thought we were done with this. Which is kind of the same reaction that she has. Yeah. Okay. And speaking of reactions, thank you to our patrons, including Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth, Patron of Hope, and Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yo.
Oh, she makes it rain. And thank you to Sierra the Sixth, the Sierra the Sixth, the key shit, the Sierra the Sixth, the Keyblade Patron. And thank you to Horsemen Comics and Gaming, who sponsored this episode because they subscribe to us at the Losers Club tier on our Patreon.
We will take one more.
Yep. But if we get 10 patrons by the end of 2024, Daniel and I will do a Slytherin playthrough of Hogwarts Legacy on stream, and we will Avada Kedavra every student we see. We will do whatever the game allows us in the evil category. Yes. Which I think is a lot. Hi, goblins. Ooh, nice. Break into Gringotts. And you should visit Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can find at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you can also shop online at fourhorsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. And if you make it in the store, say hi to Grampus of Christmas, and we'll go ahead and tell you he gave us our next assignments. So these were our 2 bonus episodes for July. So starting in August, we are starting the Universal Monster-a-thon, and we are just gonna start rewatching Universal Monster movies basically forever until he tells us to stop.
Oh, you know how we're both picking a movie?
Mm-hmm.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Sure.
Because I know that's one of the ones that had scared you at some point.
It scared me silly as a kid, and I've never seen it since.
I watched it again today. I started watching horror movies on Tubi because I got so freaking many of them, and some of them are so good that it's worth putting up the commercials for.
That's free, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Shout out to Tubi. Well, they don't sponsor us, but they should. But they can't because they don't have any money because they don't charge for their stuff.
We will take any sponsor, even Tubi.
Even Tubi. All right. Well, thank you for watching Independence Day Resurgence. And thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.